My child, my heart knowing that the frailty of mortals is of such a nature that while on earth they cannot live without sin, has devised a saving means, whereby, if it is rightly used, they may not only obtain the remission of their sins, but also receive an increase of grace. God is faithful, and according to his word, he forgives their sins to those that confess them, and he gives grace to those that pray for it and seek to live better. 1 John 9 and verse 14. What would become of man if there were no confession? How few would be saved, and how many of those who now rejoice in heaven, or who shall possess it hereafter, should be lost. Therefore I have given power to the church, that whose sins she shall forgive, they be forgiven them, and whose sins she retains, they be retained. If then either hatred or infidelity or any other sin have secretly crept into your heart, of the heart of anyone, let him not be ashamed to confess to him that presides, that through the word of God and through the wholesome advice he may be healed by him. But if you would withdraw yourself from confession, meditate in your heart on hell, which confession will extinguish for you. Therefore, knowing that against hell, after the first safeguard of baptism, there remains still this second help in confession, why do you abandon your salvation? Represent first to yourself the greatness of the punishment, and you will not hesitate to take the remedy. For there is a remission of sins, although a toilsome one, through penance, when the sinner moistens his couch with his tears, and when he is not ashamed to make known his sins to the priest of God, and to seek a remedy. This remedy of confession is eagerly to be desired by all, since the soul is harassed for hidden diseases, must be applied as soon as possible. Confess then, let all corrupted matter come out and flow off in confession. What remains shall be easily healed. Do you fear to confess, when by not confessing you cannot remain concealed? God, who knows all things, requires confession, that he may free the humble. For this he condemns him that does not confess, that he may punish the proud. Man ought to abstain from sin when he has confessed. Confession goes before, remission follows. For the church which is founded on Christ has received from him the power of freeing men from their sins. If sinners are unwilling to confess their sins, God himself, who is now their witness, shall also be their avenger. Sin should not be repeated publicly. It is sufficient to make known to the priests alone, by a private confession, the faults of conscience. Therefore reason moves, and God impels the sinner to confess. Confession is necessary to the sinner, and is no less proper for the just. Confession should be made in a threefold manner: without palliating, without excusing, without delaying. Let the penitent therefore accuse himself before the priest with a lively feeling of sorrow, with a firm purpose of amendment, and let him perform the works which may be enjoined. Penance is a sacrament, the master of which consists in the act of the penitent, which are divided into three parts. The first is contrition of heart, the second is the oral confession, the third satisfaction. What can be more adventurous than rightly to confess? Through confession man is freed from faults. He returns into favour with me. He receives peace of heart, so that he who before felt himself tortured with anguish now finds himself calm and happy. The sacrament of penance is the medicine of the soul, whereby vices are healed, temptations put to flight, the snares of the devil destroyed, new grace is impaired, piety increased, virtue rendered more and more solid. Through confession the soul regains her rights, which she had lost by committing sin, and recovers her beauty, which unrighteousness had disfigured. But it sometimes happens that the sinner, when he approaches the sacrament of divine mercy, impelled either by shame or fear, throws himself into the abyss of sacrilege, so that now he is not simply a sinner, but becomes a frightful monster of sin? Are you able, wretched man, to hide yourself from me? Are you able to hinder me from thrusting you down into the